little something like. What is up, everybody? It's your favorite country city kid, BDOLLA from the G, and I am here. You are here. We back here together for another video. So listen, before we get into anything, make sure you comment, like, and subscribe, and make sure you share. Okay, that helps me a lot. Let's get these numbers up, and let's get to talking. Okay, so listen, we're here to talk about it. Okay, because in the spirit of putting out consistent content and, you know, weekly content, I'm like, you know what? Why not continue to open myself to the YouTube space at least? So I'm like, this is the only way that I can really connect with YouTube the way that I want to. So I'm like, why not just share an impactful story / set of experiences that can possibly help somebody, possibly turn the light on for somebody else, and or just be funny to a certain degree. So without further ado, let's get into this video, and we are getting ready to get to talking. All right, guys, so y'all see the title. I am going to be talking about heartbreak. Okay, uncomfortable, what we gonna talk about, but more so than anything, we're going to be talking about the lessons learned from heartbreak and heartbreak in the talking stage. All right, because before you are looking at somebody who who has never made it into like an actual relationship, but like I've been 5 seconds away from a relationship like a couple times. So anybody who knows me knows that I'm big on evolution. I'm big on self-growth and living your life optimally and all the things. And the other day, not even the other day, yesterday I was at work, kind of just reflecting like I usually do. Had already meditated before I got there, and I really found myself missing my ex situationship. And sometimes I even struggle with what to name it specifically because we were technically never together, but the things that we were doing, the conversations that we were having were very much so relationship type of. You see what I'm saying? So it was very confusing in that way. Yeah. So ended up missing him. And kind of just reflecting, and kind of just seeing like, why do I miss him? Why do I miss him? And then I started to land on, you know, the ways or the lessons that I learned from my experiences with heartbreak within the talking stage. So one thing that I can say is that, number one, I think that you have to have an understanding of, you know, what your love language is. And I say that because if you're not self-aware, you will give the wrong people, or the wrong person that is, the wrong amount of access to you that they don't necessarily deserve, right? And in my case, my love language is time spent. Right? So whether that be text messages, whether that be phone calls, whether that be actual time together, I show my love and I receive love by people being there, right? And I know after, you know, analyzing all the things, I know that there's a lot of, not a lot, but there's a bit of trauma connected to that love language specifically for me. I'm not saying it for everybody, but for me, there's a lot of trauma connected to that specific love language, and we can definitely get into that. But my love language is time spent, right? And my last little situationship, it was a lot of time spent. And then on top of that, it was long distance, right? So I lived here in Chicago and he lived in LA, and we met in Indiana. So, but he already knew where I lived and all the things. So after months and months and months of talking and FaceTiming and texting and all these things, and I would stop what I'm doing to make sure I answer the phone, and all these things, really giving him priority in my life. Like, oh, I need to, you know, whatever. But come to find out, a lot of those things was a subconscious thing of like, oh, I need to prove that I'm lovable. So I need to do these things to be able to keep you, right? And I think because my last anything was in high school, which was 5 years ago this year, I was so eager, like, oh my God, this is the first person that just don't want sex out of me, like, this is gonna be great, all these things. And although it had its great moments, there were a lot of things that I personally sacrifice about myself, did not speak up on, and it ultimately didn't really serve any of us well, because I said on my TikTok, but I'm going to say it again. If I'm not allowing you to love me wholly, fully, then are you really loving me? And that's a real question that I really had to sit with, because it's just like, I'm not even giving my full self, because I feel like if I show you my full self, then you might walk away. So in the event that you might walk away, let me give you the version of myself that I think that you want, and let's just go from there, right? And ultimately that didn't serve me, right? So even after that, so that's one of the lessons, right? Not sacrificing yourself just to keep somebody. That ain't, no, right? So then the second most important, I think the most important really, but I just said it second, is following that gut feeling, that initial gut feeling. I personally connect that gut feeling to God or to the Lord. So, but you may call it something different, but never go against that initial gut feeling, right? So I was in the midst of kind of trying to figure out like, okay, do I want to pursue this? Is this something that I want to do? All these things. I would talk to some of my friends. I would talk to some of my mentors, and it was kind of like mixed messages, right? And because I really wasn't solidified on what I wanted to do, I'm like, I don't know what I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what's right. All these things, and I think once I actually took time to kind of meditate, weigh out the pros and cons, pray a little bit, I was met with this feeling of like there would come a day where I would have to see this person happy with somebody else, right? And I remember being on the floor of my old apartment crying about it. I mean, like really like, oh my gosh, like what in the world? I thought this was the one. But even past that, because I was so enamored and immersed in the fantasy of it all, oh baby, there's nothing that you could have told me.
That's mine. And
that's what you're going to settle for.
I'm gonna stick beside him.
I'm like, and I really had to sit with that even yesterday, like, that I would have done anything for him. I really would have. Like, I was literally considering, very much so considering, like, changing my whole life, moving to LA, secretly moving to LA, not telling nobody, just doing what I wanted to do because I wanted to protect this piece, this part of my life. And we want to put a pin right there because there's something I want to say to that. But ultimately, the initial gut feeling that I had ended up being true. And we ended up taking a break, right? And not so long after, his ex pops up in the picture and some other stuff. So I'm like,
I see myself pouring the champagne all over the table and leaving. I mean, I was just like a millisecond from doing it.
So, okay, should have just trusted it. Should have stopped it in advance. Stop, no pass, go. Like, you have no access to me, period. But because I was so immersed and enamored in the fantasy of it all, I think I didn't. And that's definitely something going forward that I definitely want to implement. Like, whenever dating does come back around for me, whether it be male or female, like making sure that like whatever internal stuff that I feel, like sticking to that and being aware of that. And my last lesson that I was going into is I wanted to protect it so bad because up until this point, I had never seriously ever thought, even considered dating the same sex to any degree, right? Up until that point, it was very strictly sexual. So, you know, my the romantic side of it, I had never considered, right? And because of that, I did not share my relationship with a whole lot of people. Like only like a handful of people really like knew in depth, like this is who I'm talking to, whatever. But I think because for so long and since I was a kid, like, you know, anything queer in nature was just so like othered, and like, you know, most people and very much so like, what's wrong with you kind of thing. I'm like, to avoid all of that, I'll hold it right here. And I'm gonna hold this thing, and I'm gonna keep this thing right here because can't nobody really touch it if I got a hold of it and if I, protect it. Ultimately, the nigga ended up doing what he did anyway. So, and there was an 8-year age difference. I was 22 when we initially met, and he was 30. So, but not me being naive, like, and I really believed in all of the future talk and fantasy of it all and everything that he was feeding me. And I don't think that he was lying, and I'm never going to put myself in a position to badmouth him because he's not a bad guy at all. But what I can say is because I was so naive, there were a lot of things that I, number one, overlooked, did not speak up on. And ultimately, because I didn't speak up on it, things progressed into something else. And then we ended up not lasting. So that's all that I have for you. With it as it pertains to kind of like my lessons learned. So number one, not going against that initial gut feeling, whatever it may be. Number two, not sacrificing yourself for the sake of others or because you want to keep that person. So ultimately heal. Heal. Okay? Heal. And when you are healed enough to be able to engage with somebody romantically or in whatever avenue, the relationship will be way more effective because you are healed. And number three, that protection piece. Like, don't ever feel like, I have to protect this thing and this. I'll leave it at the two. I'll leave it at the two, and the third one was like a sidebar. How about that? We just gonna leave it there. But that is all that I have for you as it pertains to the lessons learned from Heartbreak. And even getting my heart broken in the talking stage. And if you want to continue conversation with Heartbreak in the talking stage and kind of like my actual experience and more of the story, please let me know. I'm more than willing to share another side of myself, another side of my story, and kind of just give my input and my wisdom as I can. So yes, that's all that I have for you. Again, make sure you follow me on Instagram and Snapchat at @the.brian_. And make sure you follow me. Instagram and TikTok, at @the.brian_. And then Snapchat, BDOLLA from the G, because that is the place to be. Well, without further ado, I will see y'all next time. And I will see you later.